I met Mark during my first semester of college. He wasn't someone who stood out in a crowd, just an average-looking guy, always dressed in neutral colors, usually sitting near the back of the classroom. He wasn't particularly social, but he wasn't an outcast either. Just there. We had 2 classes together that semester, and since I was friendly with most people, I talked to him a few times. It was never anything deep, just casual small talk, complaining about professors, asking about assignments, laughing about how unprepared we both were for our midterms. I didn't think much of it at the time, but now, I wish I had never spoken to him at all. One day after class, I got a friend request on Facebook. It was Mark. I hesitated for a second, but then I figured, why not? I accepted it. Immediately, he messaged me. "Hey, thanks for adding me. How's your day?" I responded, just being polite. "Good. Just heading home. You?" That was my first mistake, because Mark took that as an invitation. He messaged me again, and again, and again. At first, it was harmless. Just little comments about class, homework, movies he liked. But after a few days, the messages started coming constantly. If I took too long to respond, he'd send question marks. If I left him on read, he'd send more messages, asking if he said something wrong, if I was upset, if I was ignoring him. Are we still friends? Did I do something to offend you? I feel like you're mad at me. I wasn't mad. I was just busy. I had a life, friends, other things to do. But Mark didn't see it that way. He saw it as rejection. And Mark didn't handle rejection well. I tried to set boundaries. "Hey, I don't really use Facebook Messenger that much. Just text me if it's important, okay?" I thought that would be the end of it. Instead, he started liking all my posts. Every single one. New profile picture? Like. Random meme I shared? Like. Status update from 3 years ago? Like. And then came the comments. Nothing overtly creepy, just too much. "You look amazing." On an old family photo. "Wow, wish I was there." On a post about my weekend with friends. "We should totally hang out sometime." On everything I posted. At first, I told myself I was overreacting. He was just being friendly, right? But then, I noticed something that made my stomach turn. He had started friending all my friends. People he had never met. People he had no connection to. I started getting messages from friends asking, "Hey, who's Mark?" He just sent me a request. Something was wrong. I decided to distance myself. I stopped responding to his messages. I ignored his comments, hoping he'd take the hint. That was my second mistake, because Mark didn't like being ignored. The messages changed. Did I do something wrong? "I feel like you're avoiding me. I thought we were friends. Why are you treating me like this?" Then they got angrier. "I don't understand why you're being so cold. I was nothing but nice to you. You're just like all the other fake girls." And then, one day, I got a notification. Mark had tagged me in a status. I clicked on it, my heart pounding. It was a long, angry rant about how some people pretend to be nice, but are actually horrible, selfish bitches who lead people on and throw them away. He didn't say my name, but everyone knew it was about me. I blocked him. I thought that was the end of it. It wasn't. A few weeks later, I started seeing new friend requests. Strangers. Random names. No profile pictures. Then I got a message. "You can't block me forever." My stomach dropped. Mark had made fake accounts. And he wasn't just messaging me. He was messaging my friends, telling them I was a liar, that I had used him, that I had led him on. Some of them believed him. I had to go through my entire Facebook, locking everything down. I changed my privacy settings, unfriended anyone I didn't know personally, and even deactivated my account for a while. But the messages didn't stop. Mark found me on Instagram, Twitter, even LinkedIn. Every time I blocked him, a new account appeared. "Why won't you just talk to me? I know you're seeing this. You can't ignore me forever." I had never been so scared in my life. This went on for 6 years. No matter what I did, no matter how many times I changed my usernames, blocked him, reported his accounts, he always found me again. Sometimes, he'd disappear for months, and I'd think, maybe he's finally moved on. But then, out of nowhere, a new message would show up. "I still think about you. It got to the point where I stopped using social media altogether. I made all my profiles private. I stopped posting anything personal. I refused to accept friend requests from anyone I didn't know in real life. I wanted to erase myself from the internet, because as long as I existed online, Mark would always find me. Then, one day, it just stopped. No more messages. No more fake accounts. No more notifications. I don't know what happened to him. Maybe he finally moved on. Maybe he found someone else to fixate on. Or maybe he's just waiting. Waiting for me to let my guard down. Waiting for me to come back online. Waiting for his next chance to say hello. When I was 9 years old, I loved playing online games. This was back in the early 2000s, when the internet felt like a new, exciting place instead of the unsettling, dangerous void it actually was. My favorite game at the time was a Tinkerbell-themed online world where you could create your own fairy, decorate a little treehouse, and fly around different areas completing quests. It was cute, colorful, and, most importantly, felt safe. But that was before I met Melanie. Before I realized that even in the most innocent corners of the internet, something could still be watching you. The game had chat restrictions for kids, so most conversations were simple, preset phrases like, "Hi," or "Wanna be friends?" You could also send out custom messages, but they had to be approved by a moderator first, which meant most people just stuck to the basics. One afternoon, while flying around a pixie meadow, I noticed another player following me. Her fairy was named Melanie 1000, and she had dark purple wings with a sparkly dress. Every time I moved, she moved. Every time I stopped, she stopped. At first, I thought it was a coincidence, but then she messaged me, "Hi, can I be your friend?" I was used to random friend requests from other kids, so I clicked yes without thinking much of it. "Yay," she replied instantly. A few seconds later, she sent another message. "What's your real name?" That was weird. Most kids in the game didn't ask things like that, and even as a child, I knew not to give out personal information online. I hesitated before responding with, "I can't say, sorry." She didn't reply right away. Then, after a long pause, she sent, "That's okay. I already know it." My name? I froze. How did she know my name? I hadn't typed it anywhere. It wasn't in my username. It wasn't anywhere on my profile. My heart started pounding. I quickly flew away from her, moving to another area of the game. Maybe it was a glitch. Maybe she was guessing. But a few minutes later, she followed me again. "I see you," she typed. I logged off immediately. That night, I told my mom what had happened. She frowned, clearly unnerved, but tried to reassure me. "Maybe it was one of your friends from school," she suggested. "Did you ever tell them about this game?" I thought about it. I had told a few friends about it before, but none of them had ever mentioned playing. And even if they had, how would they have known which fairy was mine? My mom told me to block Melanie if I saw her again. So the next time I logged in, that's exactly what I tried to do. Except, she was already waiting for me. As soon as I spawned in, I saw her standing right next to my fairy. "Hi again," she messaged. My hands started shaking. I quickly opened the game's block menu and typed in her username. "Player not found." I tried again. "Player not found." That didn't make sense. She was right in front of me. I stared at the screen, my entire body tense. Then, slowly, she sent another message. "You don't need to block me. I just want to talk." I slammed my laptop shut. I didn't go back on for days. When I finally worked up the courage to log in again, Melanie was gone. Relieved, I started playing like normal, assuming whatever had happened was over. And for a while it was. Then, one day, I got a friend request. It wasn't from Melanie 1000. It was from Melanie 2000. I hesitated, staring at the screen. The fairy looked exactly the same. Same purple wings, same sparkly dress. I felt a deep, horrible sense of dread settle in my chest. But instead of declining the request, I just ignored it. I didn't want her to know I had seen it. For a while, nothing happened. Then, a few days later, I got a message from another random user. A fairy I had never seen before. "Why are you ignoring Melanie?" I shut the game off again. By now, I was terrified to even log in. I told my mom again, and this time, she decided to report the account. She emailed the game moderators, explaining the situation, and they responded a few days later saying they would investigate. That should have been the end of it, but it wasn't, because then the email started. One afternoon, while doing homework, my mom suddenly called me over to the computer. "Did you sign up for something?" she asked. I shook my head, confused. She pointed at the screen. There, in her inbox, was an email from an address neither of us recognized. The subject line was just my name, and inside was a single sentence. "I miss you." I felt sick. I hadn't used my mom's email for anything in years. Whoever this was, they had found it on their own. That's when my mom truly started to panic. She called the game moderators again. This time, they told her something that made my stomach drop. "The user account you reported doesn't exist in our system." The game shut down a few months later. The company claimed it was due to low activity, but I always wondered if there was another reason. Because after doing some digging, I found out that I wasn't the only kid who had reported something like this. There were others. Other players who had been followed, messaged, and told things about themselves that no one else should know. All by different accounts. All with the same name. Melanie. Even now, years later, I still get chills thinking about it. Because the scariest part? I never found out who she was, or how she knew me, or if she ever really went away. When I first moved into my new apartment, I didn't think much of my neighbors. It was a quiet complex, mostly older couples and young professionals. A few families with kids. It wasn't the kind of place where people went out of their way to get to know each other. Everyone kept to themselves, which was exactly how I liked it. And then I met Greg. Greg lived 2 buildings down from me. He was in his late 40s, married, with 2 teenage kids. The first time we spoke, I was outside watering my plants when he passed by on his evening walk. "Hey there," he said with an easy smile. "You just move in?" I nodded. "Yeah, a couple of weeks ago." "Welcome to the neighborhood," he said. "If you ever need help with anything, repairs, moving furniture, just let me know. I'm good with that kind of stuff." I thanked him, and that was that. Just a friendly neighbor being polite. Or so I thought. The next time I saw Greg, I was getting my mail. "Hey, neighbor," he said, walking over with a grin. "How's the apartment treating you?" "Good," I said, keeping it short. He didn't take the hint. He launched into a long conversation about the best local restaurants, how the laundry room was always breaking down, and which neighbors to avoid. I nodded along, waiting for the conversation to end. Then, out of nowhere, he said, "So, do you have a boyfriend?" I hesitated. Something about the way he asked felt off. "I do," I lied. Greg's smile faltered for just a second before he quickly recovered. "Lucky guy," he said, chuckling. "Well, if you ever get bored, my wife's always out of town for work. I could use some company." I forced a polite laugh, hoping he was joking. But the way he looked at me, I knew he wasn't. After that, Greg seemed to always be around. If I went outside, he'd appear within minutes, acting like he had just been passing by. If I left for work in the morning, I'd see him standing in his doorway, drinking coffee, watching me. It got to the point where I started changing my routine just to avoid running into him. But then, one night, he sent me a Facebook message. "Hey, just wanted to say you looked really pretty today." I stared at the screen, my stomach twisting. I had never given Greg my full name. I hadn't told him anything about my social media. How did he find me? I didn't reply. The next day, I saw him outside as I was heading to my car. "You ignoring me now?" he asked, smiling like it was a joke. I forced a laugh. "I don't really use Facebook much." He nodded slowly, his eyes lingering on me just a second too long. "Well," he said, "I'll see you around." And something about the way he said it sent a shiver down my spine. Greg started messaging me constantly. Sometimes it was innocent, asking if I needed help fixing anything, recommending a new coffee shop. But other times, "Can't sleep. Wish I had someone to talk to. Bet you look cute in pajamas. My wife is out of town again. Want to come over?" I never responded. And that's when things got worse. One night, around midnight, I was watching TV when I heard my phone buzz. A new message from Greg. Nice lights. Looks cozy in there. My blood ran cold. Because my curtains were closed, there was no way he could see inside. I turned off the TV and sat frozen on my couch, my heart hammering. Then, slowly, I crept toward the window and peeked through the blinds. Greg was standing outside, right across the parking lot, just watching my apartment. I dropped to the floor, panic clawing at my throat. I didn't know what to do. Calling the police felt pointless. He hadn't done anything illegal. He wasn't technically trespassing. So I just sat there, heart racing, until he finally walked away. The next morning, I blocked him on Facebook. I hoped that would be the end of it. It wasn't, because that night, I got a new friend request. Different name, no profile picture, but I knew it was him. I ignored it. Then, a few days later, I noticed something that made my stomach drop. A black car was parked across from my apartment. I saw it in the morning. I saw it when I got home from work. I saw it late at night, when no one else was around. The windows were tinted. I could never see who was inside. But I knew. Greg had found another way to watch me. I started keeping my curtains shut. I changed my schedule again, leaving earlier, coming home later. But no matter what I did, the car was always there. Finally, after 2 weeks of this, I snapped. I marched outside and walked straight up to the car. The second I got close, the engine roared to life, and the car sped away. I never saw it again after that. But the messages? They never stopped. Blocked accounts. New numbers. Why are you avoiding me? I just want to be friends. I miss seeing you. Do you ever think about me? For 5 years, he kept finding me. Every time I changed social media, every time I moved to a different platform, a new account would appear. And I still don't know how he kept finding me. Then, one day, it just stopped. The messages, the friend requests, the feeling of being watched. I never heard from Greg again. Maybe he lost interest. Maybe he found someone else. Or maybe, somewhere out there, he's still watching, just waiting for me to slip up. When I was 15, I got into an argument online. It was the kind of stupid internet drama that should have ended in a day. A few annoyed comments, maybe some passive-aggressive replies, and then everyone moves on. That's what I expected. But I had no idea I was about to make the worst mistake of my life. I criticized the wrong person, and for years, I would regret ever typing those words. Back then, I spent most of my free time on an art forum. It was a place for people to share their work, get feedback, and connect with other artists. I wasn't the best, but I loved drawing. The community was small, and I recognized most of the regulars. It felt safe. One afternoon, I was scrolling through a fan art thread when I noticed something weird. A user had posted a drawing of a My Little Pony character, but something about it seemed off. The shading, the line work, I had seen it somewhere before. Then it clicked. It was traced. I hesitated before commenting. Hey, I think this might be traced. You should credit the original artist. I didn't think much of it. I wasn't trying to start anything. I just thought they might not realize that copying someone else's work without credit wasn't cool. But then someone replied to me. And that's how I met Ian. Ian wasn't the person who posted the drawing. He wasn't even the original artist. He was just another user in the thread. But the moment I left my comment, he snapped. You don't know what you're talking about. You're just jealous because you can't draw this well. People like you ruin the art community. I remember staring at my screen, confused. Why was this random guy so angry over something that had nothing to do with him? I ignored him. But Ian? Ian didn't forget. The next day, I logged back into the forum and found dozens of notifications. Ian had followed me to every single thread I had ever posted in. Every time I commented, he was there. Every time I uploaded a drawing, he left a horrible message. This is garbage. You call this art? Pathetic. It didn't stop there. I woke up to a private message from him. You should stop drawing. No one wants to see your ugly shit. I blocked him. But the next day, I had another message. Different username. Same insults. I blocked him again. But he kept coming back. Every time I blocked him, a new account appeared. I know who you are. I know where you post. You can't escape me. I was terrified. I stopped using the forum for a while, hoping he would lose interest. But Ian wasn't just a troll. He wasn't going to stop. Not until I was gone. Then, one night, I got an email. A completely anonymous address. No subject line. No message. Just a single attachment. A screenshot of my personal art blog. A blog I had never shared publicly. My heart stopped. My stomach dropped. I just sat there, staring at the screen, feeling like my entire body had gone numb. He had found me. But how? I had never used my real name. Never linked it to the forum. Had he searched for my art style? Had he cross-referenced posts? I had no idea. But one thing was clear. This wasn't just online drama anymore. This was stalking. That was when I made a decision. If Ian was going to stalk me, I was going to stalk him back. I started digging through his old posts. It wasn't hard. Ian was careless. He had been active on the forum for years, leaving behind bits and pieces of personal information. His username was the same across multiple platforms. He had mentioned his hometown in a thread once. He had posted a picture of his cat, a cat wearing a collar with a tiny glimpse of an address tag. I zoomed in, enhanced the image, and froze. I could see the first few letters of the city name. It was real. Ian wasn't just an internet stalker anymore. He was a real person with a real life that I could track down. And suddenly, the fear I had been feeling, it turned into something else. Rage. I went deeper. I searched his username on other sites. I found his DeviantArt, his Reddit, his old posts from years ago. I found a comment he had left in a gaming forum talking about how his school had just added a new computer lab. It didn't take long to connect the dots. I found his full name in a forum archive. I found his high school's website. I found a blurry picture of him in a group photo from a robotics club. I stared at the screen. For weeks, he had been hiding behind a username, acting like he was untouchable. But now I knew who he was. And that changed everything. I waited. I waited until the next time he messaged me. Another anonymous email. "You're pathetic. Just delete your account already." And for the first time, I responded. "Hey Ian, how's life in his hometown? The robotics club still around?" I imagined him reading that message. Imagined his stomach dropping, the way mine had when I saw my blog in his email. For the first time, he knew what it felt like. And just like that, the messages stopped. For years, I didn't hear from him. I moved on. I stopped thinking about him. And then, one night, I got a friend request on Facebook. The name was fake. No profile picture. But there was a message attached. "I never forgot you." I stared at the screen, my heart pounding. Was it him? Had he been watching me this whole time? Or was he just waiting for the right moment to come back? It started with an Instagram follow request. A blank account. No profile picture, no posts, no followers. The username was random, a jumbled mess of letters and numbers at Jessica_XX47H. I almost ignored it. I got weird follow requests all the time. Bots, spam accounts, people I didn't know. But an hour later, I got a DM from the same account. "Hey, do you remember me?" I hesitated. There was no name attached to the message, no context. Just those 5 words. "Who is this?" I typed back. 3 dots appeared. Typing. Then, finally, "It's me, Jessica, your old friend." I frowned. I didn't know any Jessicas. At least, not any I had forgotten. "Sorry, I think you have the wrong person," I replied. A long pause. Then, "No, I don't." A strange chill crawled up my spine. The conversation felt off, like a joke I wasn't in on. "I really don't think we've met," I said. Another pause. Then, she sent a picture. It was a screenshot of my old Facebook profile, one that I had deleted years ago. I didn't respond. I closed the app, trying to shake off the unease creeping up my arms. My old Facebook had been private. I had deleted it in high school, along with most of my social media, after getting sick of old classmates snooping through my posts. How did this random person have a screenshot? I reopened Instagram, ready to block the account, but the DM was gone. No messages. No username. As if Jessica had never existed. For a few weeks, I forgot about it. Then, Late one night, I got another DM request. A different username this time. @Jess_1997. You shouldn't ignore me. I blocked the account. The next day, another request. We were friends once. Blocked. A week later, another message. You used to talk to me all the time. Why did you stop? Blocked. And then the emails started. At first, they went to my spam folder. The same subject line every time. Remember me? No message inside. Just that two-word subject over and over again. The email address was nonsense. A string of random numbers and letters, like the usernames from Instagram. I deleted them. Then, one night, I got an email from my own name. I stared at my screen, my chest tightening. The email was simple. I still remember you. Why don't you remember me? I slammed my laptop shut. I started locking everything down. I changed my passwords, set all my profiles to private, even deleted some old accounts. I scanned my email for breaches, ran security checks, everything. But the messages kept coming. They never stopped, and they were getting personal. One day, I got a DM from an account named Adam Stilheragus. It was a picture of my childhood home, a house I hadn't lived in since I was 11. Then, another message. Do you remember now? I felt sick. Who was this? How did they know where I used to live? Then, the next message came through. A school photo of me from 3rd grade. I started having panic attacks. I couldn't sleep. I kept my curtains shut at night. Every time my phone buzzed, my stomach twisted, because no matter how many times I blocked these accounts, they always came back. And then, one night, I got a text. Not a DM, not an email, an actual text, from a local number. I can't believe you forgot me. I dropped my phone. My hands were shaking so hard I could barely type. Who are you? No response. Just a single image attachment. I almost didn't open it. When I finally did, my breath caught in my throat. It was a screenshot of an old forum post. A forum I used to visit as a kid. One I hadn't thought about in over a decade. It all came rushing back. The forum had been a small site for kids. Just a place to chat, play online games, and share stories. I had joined when I was 10 years old. And for a while, I had a best friend there. A girl named Jessica. We used to talk every day. She was a little older than me, always full of stories. She said she had a rough home life and wished she could run away someday. One day, I logged in and saw a post from her. I finally left. I'm going far away, but I'll come back someday. And then she was gone. I never saw her username again. I had forgotten all about it. Until now, I wanted to believe it was a coincidence, but I couldn't, because Jessica knew too much. She knew my childhood home, my 3rd grade school photo, my old forum username. Had she been watching me all this time? Had she been waiting for me to remember her? That night, I deleted all my social media. I changed my number. I wiped every trace of myself from the internet that I could. And for a while, it worked. The messages stopped. The emails disappeared. I finally felt like I was free. But a few months later, I got a friend request. No profile picture. No posts. Just a name. Jessica. And the bio read, "You can't erase the past." I never accepted the request. But I haven't deleted the account either. Because sometimes, late at night, I check. And every time I do, it says the same thing. Active now.